Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're gonna go through how I made it to 3.2 times my own body weight in deadlifts, which is basically Olympia level deadlifting. Now we're gonna go through each and every exercise I do step by step so we can cover my entire routine. So let's start with the first exercise for activation, the cat-cow exercise. And I can't tell you how important it is to activate before you go for heavy deadlift sessions. Now the cat-cow is perfect because it takes our spine through the motions of extension and flexion while we do extend our shoulders, work on tilting our hips backwards and forwards, activating our lats, and basically every single muscle from your glutes all the way to the tip of your fingers that you're gonna need when deadlifting. The only thing we're not really using for now is our legs, but that's gonna come in later. So the cat-cow, I go for 3 rounds of 1 minute with half a minute in between, just to make sure that every single muscle in my back and in my arms is activated and ready for a full-on deadlift session, especially if I go heavy. That's really important, so don't skip that. Also be sure to include the pelvic tilt in your movement to go into full flexion of your spine, as you can see here, and into full extension as far as possible while activating your lat during the entire exercise. We're also elongating our shoulders and trying to lengthen our arms as far as possible, pulling our shoulder blades apart at the back, and then when going into extension, we're pulling them together as much as we can, maybe even get them to touch a little bit, and of course we bring our neck into an extension too. And once we're done with that, we sit back for half a minute, 20 seconds, relax, and then repeat for the next repetition. Moving on to exercise number 2, you are gonna need a pull-up bar, because we're gonna grab this pull-up bar a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, and we're not gonna do passive hangs. What we're gonna do is actually actively activate our core and our spinal erectors by moving backwards and forwards. Now it looks like a floppy fish, but trust me, this exercise has a myriad of benefits. First on, you're basically activating your entire posterior chain here, and then when you move forward, you're activating your anterior chain because you're also flexing your quads, and at the back you're flexing your biceps femoris, your gastrocnemius and soleus, basically everything down to your tiptoes. Now this will depend on how much grip strength you have, but I go for doing a full minute of this exercise, taking a break and repeating it again 3 times before I move on to the next exercise. So we've made it to the squat rack. We're gonna add some weights, and you're gonna notice my first exercise already starts out at 225 or 100 kilograms, which is a lot, but you're gonna have to keep in mind that we're not starting out with a full deadlift. What we're gonna be doing is adding a lot of weight, maybe half of your 1 rep max from the very beginning, and doing rack pulls. Now for rack pulls, the cool thing is the range of motion is really short, so you can actually add a lot of weight. But the benefit of that is that you're getting full engagement and full contraction in your spinal erectors and in your glutes from the beginning. Now what this does is it keeps the contraction in our biceps femoris and in our lower legs to a minimum, while having the additional benefit of just practically isolating our spinal erectors and our glutes to a maximum. Now for this, I would recommend doing 5 to 10 repetitions of 4 sets, because that is exactly what I do. I go really heavy. I start out with the 100 kilograms and then I move on, adding 40 kilograms for each rep and ending it at around 190 or 200, which is basically my deadlift 1 rep max, which is a lot of weight. But when you consider that the range of motion is so short, I am pretty sure that you could do your 1 rep max for at least 3 to 5 repetitions easily. I'm also using an over-underhand grip here because it's simply the easiest one, and I don't like to fuck up my hands by using my thumb from the inside. Now, always be sure to return your weights after you work out. It's not funny to leave them around, especially if you're someone who's really strong and who deadlifts hundreds of kilograms. And now we've made it to the main lift, the Sumo deadlift. Now here I'm starting a little bit lower. I'm starting at 1 time my own body weight, which is basically just 60 kilos. That's going to be a lot more probably for you, or maybe even a little bit less. It doesn't matter, but I start with 1 time my own body weight, because I do 5 times 5, which means 5 repetitions and 5 sets, which gives me a lot of leeway to increase the amount of weight I'm using with each set and still make it up to the 180, which is about 90% of my 1 rep max. I'm also using the Sumo Deadlift because the risk to reward ratio in my eyes and in multiple studies conducted is much lower than you would have with a conventional deadlift. So once you've done your 5 repetitions for the first set, you can start increasing the weight and moving on to set number 2. Now just for demonstration's sake here, I didn't use a lot of weight, but other than that, wide step, grip over under, so it's a lot easier than just doing overhand grip, and align your shoulders with your hands before you pull up. Do your 5 repetitions, try and stay as strict as possible. If you can't keep your lower back in a neutral to extended position, then it's too heavy. If you decide to go for slow reps or explosive like here, that totally depends on you and on your goals, but I mix and match. After you've done your 5 times 5, I would recommend that you remove some weight, because we're gonna move on to another deadlift exercise, or basically the Jefferson Curl. So remove some of the weight, lift the barbell up, and once it's up, you're gonna close your legs like so, and then you're gonna move down with straight legs and a straight back. Now you want to stay neutral in your spine, and you want to keep your legs fully extended. I have enough mobility to move all the way to the floor with the barbell, but you don't have to do that. If you lack the mobility, and if you find that you can only work down to your knees, that's also fine. You can even use the safeties in the squat rack to make sure that you don't go lower than you're supposed to. I go for 10 repetitions because this exercise is amazing for your posterior chain and is going to strengthen your biceps femoris, your glutes, your gastrocnemius, your soleus, your spinal erectors, basically everything you need to deadlift really heavy, but it does it in a different way than you would from a sumo deadlift or from a conventional deadlift, because our biceps femoris and our hamstrings are in the longest state, and the range of motion is really long for these muscles, especially if you have the mobility to move down all the way. And now we can go on to the next exercise, and those are some really heavy biceps curls, biceps femoris curls. So for the back side of our legs, you're gonna put your feet somewhere where you can hook them in, and then you're gonna use your body weight and try and go down as slowly as you can. At some point it's gonna tip over, and you just let go just a little bit. Put your hands down so you don't fall on your face, and repeat this for 10 repetitions per set and for 3 sets. Now this is gonna give your hamstrings and your calves the absolute rest. It's gonna squeeze out any amount of energy you still have left in those muscles, and it's gonna be really uncomfortable, especially if you go heavy before that and if you finish up with this exercise. You're not gonna regret it though, because this is gonna build insane amounts of strength, and you're gonna notice it with each deadlift session. They're actually gonna get better and better, and at some point you're gonna be able to slow this down much further. Now after that, because we've gone through so many contractions, we're not gonna go into full stretching mode, but we will sit down and loosen up our legs just a little bit so we don't get any cramps, which moves us to the last exercise. This time we're gonna do a passive hang to decompress every single joint and our backs from the exercises that we just did. The 3 rounds of decompression. I also try to hold again for a full minute for each set. If you can't do that yet, it's no problem, but work your way up there to 3 repetitions, and then you basically have done the full training that I did to move from barely being able to lift my own body weight to more than 3.2 times my own body weight raw. No belt, no shoes, no chalk, no straps, nothing. So I had the grip strength and I had the muscular strength to pull this weight this way. I hope this helped, and I'll see y'all tomorrow because new videos every day. Captain Cairo, peace out.